Welcome to the latest in Ably's webinar series, The Developer's Edge. My name is Devin Rader, and I have the privilege of serving as the head of developer relations at Ably. And today we're going to be talking about Ably Presence and how you can use it in your own application to create experiences that allow your application's users to communicate in real time their own status to other users of your application. Before we dive into the presentation, just a few logistical bits. First of all, presentation today should take around 20 to 25 minutes. It is being recorded, so don't worry if you miss something that we say. You'll get the recording afterwards and you can rewatch or even share with a colleague. We're going to be doing a bunch of demos today, and all of the source code that you see us write is going to be available to you. So don't worry about feeling like you have to copy anything down or take any screenshots. You'll get a GitHub URL after, and you can go and look at the code yourself, even clone it and give those demos a try. We do have time baked in at the end of the presentation for questions. So if you do have a question as we're going through the content, feel free to drop it into the questions box. That's part of the webinar software. And lastly, today's demo is interactive. So we would love for you to participate. And it's very, very simple to do that. We'll give you a URL that you can load in a browser. And there's no obligation to do it. You don't have to sign in. We're not going to collect any information, but would love to have as many of you participate in our demo as want to. Awesome. So a little bit more about the presentation today. We're going to start the presentation by just talking about Presence and introducing Presence to you, what it is, why you may want to use it, and how you can use Ably's APIs to add Presence capabilities to your own application. We'll talk briefly about some common use cases, including how we see some of our own customers using Presence today in their own applications. Most of the time, however, we are going to be building a demo and doing some live coding and actually showing you how you can use Ably's Presence APIs to build Presence into your own application. We'll close the presentation by looking at a few different challenges, some common pitfalls, just some things that we think are important for you to start thinking about before you embark on building your own Presence experiences. And as I said earlier, we will have time at the end for Q&A. Doing most of the presenting today is Nick Littman, a solution engineer at Ably. So Nick, I'll hand the floor over to you and you can tell us more about Presence.
Thank you very much, Devin. Hi, everyone. Let's jump into things. So let's get into all about Presence. So we'll talk about first, what is it? Well, Presence is a feature on an Ably channel that serves as a binding between a connection and a channel. It's a mechanism that provides visibility into the connections that are currently active on a channel. So by maintaining the state of a user on a channel, Ably allows for the observation of both the users present on the channel as well as their activities. So now that we got what it is out of the way, why should you even care about it? Why should you use it? Well, Presence enables a true real-time experience, whether it's a collaborative application like Miro or a chat application like Slack. Knowing small bits of context regarding what your fellow coworker or colleague is doing is game-changing. And Ably isn't prescriptive on what you can do with Presence, so really the sky's the limit. But we will talk about some common use cases shortly to get your mind kind of thinking. So how do you use it? Well, there's 4 simple events for Presence: enter, update, leave, and present. As you'll see, they all follow a pretty similar syntax. The enter operation captures the moment a user enters a channel. This information is valuable for real-time presence tracking and enables you to display user availability, initiate personalized experiences, or trigger actions based on user entry. The update operation allows you to keep track of changes in user status, activity, or metadata, and it empowers you to reflect the most up-to-date information about users and their interactions in your application. Last but not least, the leave operation reports when a user leaves a channel or becomes inactive, allowing you to accurately track user presence and maintain an up-to-date view of user availability and engagement. And as you probably have seen, all of these actions follow a pretty similar syntax, right? We're interacting with this presence object with this leave command similar to enter and update. And these are actually things that our clients will emit. But in there, we're just passing some simple data that says left, but the beauty of this is you can pass any sort of object with your own custom data. And so if we look at an example in the real world, let's say we were doing some live cursors. In this object, we might want to pass X and Y coordinates, as well as maybe a color to differentiate a user's cursor. And you can do that by passing in your own custom object into this update. But these are all client emitted events. There's a fourth one we need to talk about that is something that Ably emits on its own. So when subscribing to presence events on a channel that already has members present, the present event is emitted for every member already present on the channel before the subscriber was registered. And so where this is useful is when you're initializing your client, you may want to display all of the users that are already there. This is helpful where you don't have to do a REST query, you don't have to query anything. All you can do is listen for the events over that real-time WebSocket connection and initialize the state. But enough about kind of how we use it. Let's look at some examples in existing Ably customers and how they use presence. So the first one we'll talk about is HubSpot. And many of you may be familiar with HubSpot. They're a SaaS CRM platform that empowers businesses with tools for sales, marketing, customer service, and a whole lot more. And their aim is to facilitate collaboration and customer engagement. Ably's presence plays a crucial role in HubSpot's platform by enhancing real-time interactions. With presence, HubSpot can offer features like typing indicators and online status. Typing indicators allow support agents to monitor real-time engagement of customers and prioritize accordingly, whereas the presence feature also allows them to display online status. So think of a customer support agent helping somebody. This allows them to dedicate their time to people that need it most. Through presence, HubSpot offers an engaging real-time customer experience to their users. Another example of this through collaboration is a customer called Mentimeter. So Mentimeter is an interactive presentation software that spins traditional presentations on their head. Their platform allows users to create engaging and dynamic presentations that boost collaboration and real-time participation. And presence is instrumental in the operation of their platform, enhancing those real-time interaction capabilities. For some context, Ably is used by Mentimeter from everything from reactions to live polling, all things in order to boost engagement. But one thing that really sets Mentimeter apart is their ability to handle collaborative editing. They use presence to help teams build presentations together through features like field locking to avoid collisions or displaying what slide a user is looking at to show awareness. So by leveraging presence, Mentimeter helps their customers build great presentations regardless of how big their teams are. We help a whole lot of customers from tons of different industries, but we know what you might be interested in is seeing how it actually happens. So we'll jump over to our editor. And we're just looking at right now at VS Code. Devin and I have gone through the hard work of setting up a little skeleton application. We call it the Statusomatic 5000. Right now, you can't really share any status, but we've set up a bare bones HTML JavaScript application, and we've set up a auth server to authenticate with the Ably backend. And we're assigning just a randomly generated client ID that you'll see on the screen. And we're actually joining a channel called CatJam, as well as displaying the client ID. And so if everybody wants to access the URL, we could just pop this in chat. And so we'll share this, and you'll be able to follow along with development as we go. You may have to refresh a few times, but this will allow you to see kind of what's happening in real time. But I'm going to hand it over to Devin to start showing us how we can add some life into this.
Cool. Yay, we get to code.
Yay.
Yeah, so as Nick said, what we have here is basically just an application that connects to Ably, but we don't know what clients are connected into a particular channel or what their status is. And so that's going to be the first thing we do is add to our application here a way for us to start to build out a member list so that we can see what clients are connected and who Ably is tracking. So to do that, I'm going to start by coming down here into the HTML, and we'll add in an unordered list, and we'll give it an ID called message list. And this is where we will add in members as Ably starts to track them. So then I'll come up here to JavaScript, and I'm going to need to add a way to access that member list. So I'll just add a little JavaScript there that grabs that particular HTML element. And then when a user starts being tracked by Ably, when they join a channel and they say, please start tracking my presence, as Nick said earlier, Ably has a series of events that will fire. And when somebody enters tracking, the enter event fires. And so what I'm going to do is add a little code here using our channel object and its presence property. And I'm going to subscribe to the enter event. That event gives me an object that I'll call member that describes the member of the channel or the client that entered. And so in the callback for that, I am going to just create a new list item. And as some of the properties of that list item, I'll use that member object to grab some information about who entered, and then we'll add that to that member list. Pretty simple so far. So the last thing I have to then do in order to start building our member list is I have to give clients a way to enter into a channel and have Ably start tracking their presence. To do that, I'll come down here and add another button. We'll make it a type button. And then we'll use the on-click event of a button to, again, go back to the channel that we created and say, use the presence object again. And I'm just going to call the enter function. Nick showed this earlier, but I'll speak to it again. Enter can take a simple value like a string or a number, or you can pass an object into it, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say I want to pass in this user's status, and by default, when they enter, we'll make it available. Close my button and give that a label. And Nick's going to save our file here.
Very nice.
And so now, if you refresh your browser, you'll see a new button that allows you to enter.
Look at that. Very nice. Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. So should we jump over and look at status? I don't see.
Yeah. Did I spell everything correct? Message. Oh, hold on. It helps if I name things correctly. Try now.
That may have solved. Oh, don't want to save.
Hey, there we are.
There we go. Man, I feel like that's the hardest part, you know, just trying to spell things right. Because there's no, you know, it just sometimes it doesn't fix it for me.
That's right. We fixed it though.
We fixed it.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, Nick, what should we do next?
That is a good question. So one problem we have now is that we can't see the users that are already present when we join the channel. And we can see anybody that joins after us, but that's kind of a problem with that initialization component, right? So we can address this by listening for the present event we spoke about earlier. So similarly to how Devin right here subscribed to the enter events, I can subscribe to those present events. So we'll go ahead and subscribe, and we'll listen for a present event. And just as we did there, what we're going to do is essentially when we receive that present event, we're going to add it to our member list. And just similar to just how we enter, we just append it. And then if we go ahead and save that and just jump right over and refresh, now when I look at my list, I haven't, I just initialized it and I could see everybody there. There were already people within the present set. But what if I wanted to leave? Well, let's add some of that functionality. So we'll first add a button to give us the ability to leave. So I'll scroll down to our other buttons. So we have our enter, and we'll just add another button down here. And we're going to add an on click to that button that does something very similar to how we handled the channel.presence.enter. We're just going to call channel.presence.leave. And I could pass data, but I could also leave it out, optional. It'll just emit the last status. If you wanted to add some custom leave data, you could also do that, but I'm just going to keep it simple for now. And so now we have a leave button, but before we jump back to the demo, let's make sure we can listen to other people leaving, because while I might leave, I want to know when other people leave as well. And so we'll just add another listener up here, and we're going to subscribe to leave events. So we have enter, present, now we have leave, and I'm going to spell it correctly. And we will just add some code in here to actually remove that member or that user from the member list, so that it renders. And so if we go ahead and save that and refresh our browser, and we just jump over here, we'll see we have enter, leave, and mute. So if we enter and then we leave, boom, enter and leave. But I feel like it'd be even better if we had a way to update our status to something more fun. Let's check it out, Devin.
Indeed. Drill. Right now, every time somebody enters, you saw me earlier, their status is available, right? But I'm sure not everybody is available all the time. So it would be great to give users of this application a way to change their status without having to leave or re-enter. And we can do that by going back and adding a few more buttons. So we're going to start by adding a button here for available, because we do want to be able to set their own status to available. And just like we've done several times before, in this button, we're going to use its on-click event and go back to our channel and presence property. And this time we're going to call update. And we'll pass that object that has the status property. And as the button implies, this button will be for when you are available. But we can add a few more buttons because maybe somebody wants to be away, or sometimes I'm lucky enough to get a holiday. So I want to be on holiday. Or sometimes, middle of the day, you might catch me napping. Hopefully not. Who doesn't love a nap? Or, sometimes I just feel cats. All right, so we've got a bunch of buttons that let our client update their status. But now, as you are starting to see a pattern, we should find a way to let other clients that are connected know that this user is updating their status. And to do that, we'll go back up here and, you guessed it, add an event. So we're going to subscribe to the update event. And this should be beginning to look familiar to y'all now. And for this one, what we want to do, it's a little bit different than the ones we've done before. Here, we're going to look for the element whose data client ID attribute matches the client ID who has been updated, and then use that to grab that particular list item and update its content with that changed status. So I think if we save this and go back, we now should have a series of buttons, and y'all can refresh.
Boom.
There we are. All
there
right.
They are.
And you can see now our statuses are changing.
Look at that, I'm cats.
That's right. This is pretty cool. but I don't know about you, Nick. There are definitely times where I really want to know when someone's status has changed, or when someone let somebody else know that my status has changed. And so I happen to run into a little bit of code that I think might help me know or tell folks. So I'm going to come over to that update event again. And I'm going to add a little function where I'm going to pass in that member status. And we should probably know when people leave as well. So we'll add that there and just specifically say leave. Let's see what that does. Save.
Oh, that's an important step in the process.
This is one of the fun parts about coding together. You get to pair program. Hey, cool.
Oh, very nice. I don't know if my sound is being shared, but I'm
but
telling
if you're playing
you,
along at home, you will know. You will absolutely know.
Oh man. Well, good thing we added this mute button so that
That is right. We knew that was there for a reason.
Awesome. Well, let's jump back over. But so this is all great, but what if we wanted to extend this presence information and use it within some other service, right? And it's great that we can share our presence states and build this incredible real-time, experience for our users. But we might want to do some sort of analysis or program some like backend logic based off of these present events. Well, you can tap into some integrations in Ably, and we'll set one up really quickly to show you how quick it is. I set up a quick webhook.site. This gives me a URL I can just pipe requests to. But I'll go into my Ably account. So I'm in my Ably dashboard right now. I set up an account for this, so we'll just jump into DevEdge. And you'll see at the top here, I have a few different options. I want to head over to integrations, the fourth one over at the top here. And I'll get a nice big button that just says new integration rule. And this gives me some options, whether it's a webhook, an Ably queue, or a Firehose into some streaming service. We're just going to set up a simple webhook, a custom one to that webhook.site endpoint I copied. And we're going to change the source to presence messages because we want to send all the presence messages that are flowing through our application. I could add a channel filter to listen to specific channels, almost like a regular expression. We call them channel namespaces here at Ably, but I'll just leave it blank so it applies to all of the channels. So I'll go ahead and create that. And then what that's going to do is it's going to set up this rule that any message that gets published over an Ably channel, and specifically the presence messages, are going to be sent to this URL. And so what we'll be able to test is jumping back over to our application, we can enter and send all of these events. And then I'm sure a lot of you heard that if you had your browsers open, but we'll jump back to the webhook.site. And you'll see we have all of these rich presence events with all the information we shared, as well as some timestamp information, coding, etc., that you'll be able to pipe into, wherever you need this. So very extensible, fun to play with. But Devin, wrap us up.
Yeah, that was super fun. So just to recap, what did we build? We had a really simple application that we started with that really just connected to Ably. And what we added along the way was the ability for clients using that application to ask Ably to start and stop tracking their presence. And we added a way to see who in that channel was having their presence tracked. And we added a way for users of the application to update their status and display that in our list. So super fun to build. It was great building with you, Nick. We did say that at the end of this presentation that you had some tips and things to share for folks who are thinking about adding this to their own application.
I'm happy to talk about them now. I will say we also have some great documentation we'll share after, but there are some common pitfalls when building with presence, and I figure it might be a little helpful as you embark on that journey. The first one that we'll talk about is the n squared problem. And so what's the n squared problem? Well, for n users in a presence set, an update must be sent to all n users. So as you add more users to this set, it becomes exponentially more taxing. So to combat this, it's helpful to evaluate what the logical limit should be on the amount of users in presence. So thinking about that, right, do you actually need all of the states of 1,000 different users, or is it only a close group of friends? That's something to evaluate. But once you come to that limit, anything beyond that limit, you should take a look at occupancy or think about integration rules. We haven't talked about occupancy yet, but occupancy is a piece of metadata that comes bound with every Ably channel that is helpful for conveying the scale of an audience. So like a Twitch stream, it's valuable to know how many people are in the room, but not as valuable to know if each and every member is online or offline. And so what this gives you is just a pure number that you can use in your application to show how many users are on a channel. But if you really, really, really do need to know what those states are, then I would point you towards integration rules. And this would allow you to process that present state externally. So think of it this way, where you give these clients the ability to publish only access to that presence, where they're publishing their states, but they're not receiving the states. They don't have the subscribe access. And so they publish all of that information out to a third-party service through an integration rule similar to what we set up. And then you can have some service actually batch all of those together and publish them directly to all of those clients, therefore avoiding the n-squared problem. Another common pitfall that you might run into is duplicate IDs. And so it's important to understand that presence is tracked by member, which is a combination of client ID and connection ID, not solely by client ID. This means that you might see a leave event that suggests a client has gone, while in reality, it could just be that a connection of that client has dropped. And so a strategy for combating this would be to treat them all as separate entities. If you ever used a Google slide on multiple browsers or even multiple devices, you may have seen yourself show up a few times. Well, that's one way to handle it, where who cares if you show up multiple times? You don't have to worry about, stitching them together. But if you do only want to show that one user across multiple devices, you have to maintain the state of the group of those connections and only handle leave logic when all of those connections are done. The last one I'll talk about is presence ordering. Ably provides guaranteed message ordering over the Ably protocol, but integrations into third-party systems are constrained by those systems and the transports that they use to communicate. And so when using webhooks, events like enter, leave, or update could potentially arrive out of the order in which they were emitted. And so if your third-party system requires that strict ordering, you can actually read the timestamp attribute on any presence message sent to your system to validate that ordering. Those are some tips. Again, the documentation is fantastic. There's tons and tons more. But let's talk about how you could find some of that. Devin?
Yeah, cool. And while we're running through this list of resources, if you do have questions, just a reminder to add them to the question box. So a few resources that you can use if you're interested in playing around with Ably's Presence APIs. As Nick has said, our documentation is great and super easy to follow. It makes it really easy for you to get up and going. This demo, as we mentioned earlier, is in GitHub, and the URL is there. And we do have a blog post talking about how to use presence at scale, which I think talks through some of those pitfalls or those challenges that you just mentioned, Nick. And of course, if you do have any questions after this, you're also welcome to drop us an email. You can email help@ably.com. And we do have a Discord as well that you can come and join us in. With that, I believe we have come to the conclusion of our presentation.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. Good luck with building, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Awesome. Thanks.
Have a good day, everyone.
Take care.